Yesterday, the Jacksonville Jaguars, they just said, screw it, we're getting rid of everybody. If you make more than $6 million on our roster, you're done. You can't stick around. I will say I reevaluated the Christian Kirk situation. That happened while we were on the show. In the moment, it was like, why would you trade him to the Houston Texans? That's crazy. I look at it now. It's a 7th round pick in 2026, and his cap hit this season is $16 million, which in my eyes, I'm sitting there going, I have two questions. The first one is, why did the Steelers not pull this off? Why did the Steelers not go and do this? Were they just lazy? Did they expect that this was going to happen? Second, and this is the more important one, if the Houston Texans pulled this off for a 7th round pick a year from now, did anybody else call it all? And why wouldn't anybody else call it all? Because the Houston Texans, that's like the Steelers trading Calvin Austin to the Baltimore Ravens for a 7th round pick a year from now. That's what that is. And you'd be sitting there going, what? How did that even, why did you do that? And well, that's the question. Why did they do that? Why did it get to that point? To me, I don't think we have the answer. I don't think we can even get the answer. But that is when you're going to go criticize the Pittsburgh Steelers about this, because, you know, that's the reaction, is to criticize the Steelers, to say they missed another guy for an easy trade. What's going on here? You gotta wonder and assume almost that 30 other teams in the NFL didn't call the Jacksonville Jaguars. And there's got to be a reason for that, because if the Kansas City Chiefs called, you'd trade them to the Chiefs before you traded them to the Houston Texans, because the Texans get in your way to facing the Chiefs. There are 3 teams, unless it's the Titans. You could trade them to the Titans for a 1st round pick this year. I mean, that's, you know what I mean? That's a great trade. The Houston Texans are not the team that you're giving a guy away for nothing. So, I mean, we could criticize the Steelers, but I think it comes with the question of, like, what's happening? What is the reasoning behind this? Because that's more important. Go ahead. I could tell you got thoughts.
Yeah, I can't speak for the other 29 teams in the NFL because I'm not keeping tabs on them as closely as we're keeping tabs on the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I think it's unfair to judge the Steelers until we see what the result is of the next week, and maybe even the next 2 weeks. Yeah. Because based on what we know, they like Darius Slayton a lot. And the differences between Darius Slayton and Christian Kirk on the field aren't that much. So if they like Darius Slayton and they are comfortable knowing that they were going to go after Darius Slayton, be able to get Darius Slayton for a similar price and without the acquisition cost, no matter how small it is, it's better when it comes to actual asset management if you just go out and get Darius Slayton. So until we see the result of who ends up being the wide receiver 2, I'm not going to kind of bash on the Steelers for that, but it does raise questions. And I understand the impulse to say, well, the Steelers could have done that move, because yeah, the Steelers could have easily done that move. But if they're sitting on the South side right now saying, listen, it's all but assured that we're going to sign Darius Slayton as soon as the calendar flips to March 12th, then yeah, of course you're going to leave it alone and not say, yeah, we'll take on $16 million and give up a 7th round pick, because even though it's nothing, it's something that in the future you could use to add another piece if you already knew you were going to get somebody. So I think we have to wait and see how this plays out before we kind of rake Omar Khan over the coals for this one. But I do understand the impulse to say, listen, the Steelers have been needing a good wide receiver for a while now, a solid number 2 wide receiver for a while now. One was up for grabs for a low price. You probably could have gotten them and had this entire thing over with. But at the same time, again, for the reasons I stated before, I'm gonna pump the brakes a little bit on it.
Can I offer a thought here that I might be totally off on, but my brain went here when I saw it was, because it was immediate. Like, I jumped off of this, I went on to Twitter, and everybody tagged me and said, what the hell is this? How did the Steelers not do this? And I was like, yeah, you know, it's a 7th round pick and he's $18 million. And I looked, I was like, $16 million in a 7th round next year? Like, that makes no sense. How did that happen? I think that there's a possibility that this is hinting, because again, this is not just the Steelers. This is 30 teams in the NFL did not call the Jacksonville. That's what you have to assume. Or they called and they offered a 7th round pick in 2027, which I'm sorry, but there's no chance that 30 teams called the Jacksonville Jaguars with a worse offer than a 7th round pick in 2026. The likelihood of that happening is so slim.
Yeah.
My thought is this might be hinting that the wide receiver market is cheaper than we think it's going to be. That these guys, that $16 million for Christian Kirk might be overpaying Christian Kirk. And that teams are looking to turn back because you got to remember, Christian Kirk was a $20 million a year guy. Deontay Johnson was an $18 million a year guy. These guys didn't work out. Everybody was getting $20 million. That was the new floor. Marquise Hollywood Brown got $20 million or whatever it was. Didn't work out. Maybe this is the turn of the tide where you look at it and go, Darius Slayton's going to go for 13. And guys like Christian Kirk would have went for 12. And you're thinking maybe they're overpaying. I'm not saying it's a thought, it's where my brain went because there's always got to be a reason. There's and we don't find out these reasons for a long time, but there's always got to be a reason that a trade like that pops off and you go, that one just doesn't make sense. There's got to be. NFL guys are too smart. Omar Khan calls. You said on the show yesterday, you call Omar Khan or you call the Houston Texans. He probably called the second that he became available. It's not like they were all sitting there going, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize he could get traded for. No, They were all aware of the situation, so maybe, which would definitely work in the Pittsburgh Steelers' favor.